Hey, what's up? I'm Chardonnay, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Kalle shirt and shirt dress pattern by Closet Core Patterns. This is what the pattern looks like. I decided to sew up view B, which is the mid-length shirt. Even though it's a mid-length top, I still consider this to be a dress just because the way it falls on me and fits me. I feel like the tunic still kind of falls into that dress category. So I decided to stitch this up. I went ahead and stitched this up inside of a linen fabric. So if I look a tad bit wrinkled, that's because sewing with linen fabric, as you all may know, it is inevitable that the wrinkles will come. No matter how many times you iron it, the longer you wear the shirt throughout the day, the wrinkles just come on in. So yes, I decided to sew up the Kalle shirt view B using a pink linen fabric, which I purchased online. So I'm going to be breaking this review into 3 different topics. I'm going to be breaking it down into my overall thoughts and feedback about the pattern, what I wish was different about this pattern, and modifications and what went well while stitching this up. So let's begin with my overall thoughts and feedback about this pattern. My first impression is that this is an expensive pattern compared to the patterns I just bought on sale from Hobby Lobby that were 99 cents. This was an expensive pattern. However, I feel like you pay for what you get, and I think the instructions were detailed for someone who is a beginner up to a certain extent, and I'll elaborate in a moment, but I was able to follow along with the instructions up until I got to the burrito method. Now, I first want to talk about this pattern and what I mean about you pay for what you get. I think that with this particular pattern, even the illustration is done really well. The instructions are really detailed, and this is a super size inclusive pattern. So I think you pay for what you get, from the artwork to the packaging, even the weight of the paper that they decided to print the pattern on. I really like the weight of the paper, and I feel like it's sturdy enough so that way you can get some longevity out of this pattern. So I really do appreciate that, and I feel like you pay for what you get, and this is a super durable and quality pattern. And you can tell that they made the envelope and the pattern pieces itself something that you can hang on to, or you would want to hang on to. So I really appreciate that. So I've mentioned in a previous video about how I have struggled with the burrito method, but on this particular project, I think I figured out how to actually get it intact, and I think I have kind of start to actually understand the burrito method. And I actually ended up finding a video to use to follow along, which helped guide me through the rest of this make. As someone who is a beginner, my advice is when you find a sew along video that works, hold on to it, okay? And I feel like that's the phase and that's the point that I'm at, because I have found a video that has visually helped me grasp this part of the process. And so I think that if you find a video that works for you, hang on to it until you feel confident that you can stitch it up by memory. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll also link the video I use for this particular make in the description box for future use and future reference. But overall, as a beginner, I would say that this was a moderate make. It wasn't easy or fast. I actually started working on this because I thought it would be a fast and easy make, but just because of time constraints and other projects and things that I had going on, also factoring in that I was learning how to put this together, this wasn't something that I have done before. I feel like that kind of played a role into why it took me so long to put this together. And I mentioned to you all earlier, I started keeping a sewing journal. And so with my sewing journal, I have just been jotting down the type of fabric I use, hiccups that I have run into along this process, and how long it's taken me to work on this project. And so I wrote down that it took me about 3 weeks exactly to put this together. Just for those who are out there, you're trying to get an idea, like if you start this, how long would it take? But also I told you I had a lot of other projects going on, so that's why it took me 3 weeks. If you're more advanced sewist, it may take you a day or two. It just depends on where you're at. So at the end of this video, you will see photos and snapshots of this project because I wanted to also document and chronicle how each step was looking along the way. But structurally, I think that I did good. I feel like some of the things that you will learn while stitching up and using this pattern, you will learn how to install a collar and a collar stand. You'll learn the burrito method. You'll learn how to make bias tape out of your fabric. You'll learn how to make a popover placket where these buttons are attached on the front of the shirt. And you'll learn how to sew up a curved hem. So if this is something that you are sitting down and you're sewing a shirt for the very first time, these are some of the skills that I feel like you'll learn inside of this pattern. And these are some of the things that I have personally learned while stitching this up. Now, regarding feedback, I showed this top to a few folks, and one of the responses I got while I was showing off my top was that this blouse gives Golden Girls, which I thought was a reach because really, Golden Girls? Now, I can see back when I went to high school, we used to rock the Aeropostale, Hollister, Abercrombie and Fitch. We used to rock the double polos. We would wear maybe 2 different colored polos on top of each other. Yes, especially if you were rocking your Rex or your Mikes. And then you'll accessorize it with your wet seal jewelry or whatever type of costume jewelry that you had access to. Now, I can see that, okay? But Golden Girls, that is a little bit of a reach and a stretch for me. But I share that because I feel like as a beginner, you will get feedback about your makes and your project, and don't let it discourage you, okay? Some people just may not see the vision, and that is okay. If you like it, rock it and wear it, and don't be afraid to flaunt your work. So this brings me to my next topic, which is what I didn't like about sewing up this pattern and what didn't go so well with this project. So what didn't go well, or what I found to be confusing, was one of the steps within the instructions of this pattern. So I don't know if it was just me having the beginner's mindset or if I was tired when it came to this step, but one of the pages where they show you how to apply the interfacing, I'm going to flip through this instruction manual and see if I can find it. Yes, so on the interfacing guide page, this is what it looks like. The part that I found confusing was they told you each piece individually, like if you read the instructions. So as you can see, they named out most of the pieces up here, and then when they got to the collar section of the instructions, they just kind of named those pieces and then they illustrated E, G, and H to go ahead and apply interfacing. Now, this section is really minor, but as someone who is a beginner and picking up this pattern for the very first time and sewing up this type of blouse for the first time, it came off as confusing to me. Again, it's super minor, but I'm just telling it how it is. It was confusing. So that was a hiccup that I ended up running into. Another thing that happened while stitching up this pattern is I ended up using the remaining of this fabric from a leftover project. I mean, not a leftover project, but from another project. I had already used this same fabric to cut out a different project, and I was trying to stretch what I had left over to the very end. This particular pattern had less pieces than the other project that I was working on. And again, when I sat down to stitch this up, I thought that it would be a quick, fast, and easy make. That ended up not being the case, but I was stretching all the pieces to the very end, and I found myself trying to stitch up the remnants of fabric just to try to make it work. I ended up taking this shirt with me out on a work trip so that way I could show my mom the step that I was kind of stuck on and to get some advice from her, and ask her if I could get away with the pieces that I was trying to stretch and sew together and make it work. And she ended up telling me, like, girl, you know what, just go ahead and buy the extra fabric you need, especially if they still have it in stock and they still have the rest of the inventory of this same color fabric. Go ahead and get the fabric that you need so it comes out the way that you like, and so that way you will actually wear it and you'll feel comfortable and confident about wearing the piece that you made. So that made sense to me, and that's what I ended up doing. This leads me to the next topic, which is what went well and the modifications I made to this pattern. So something I decided to do with this pattern is I decided to get some tracing paper and trace out this pattern. Now, the reason why I decided to do that, because as I mentioned earlier, this pattern is not cheap compared to the other patterns I recently purchased coming off of that Hobby Lobby sale. If you're interested, you can check out my pattern haul that I have available up here on my YouTube channel. But also because this pattern has such a wide range of sizes, it goes from 0 to 20. I'm going to go ahead and show you all the size range again. But because this has such a wide range of sizes, I can see myself stitching this up for a bunch of different occasions, or maybe even gifting this same blouse to someone. So those were a few of the contributing factors to why I decided to get some tracing paper and trace out this pattern, and also what contributed to maybe this project taking longer than expected. But I do appreciate that this has a wide range of sizes to work with within this pattern. What else went well in this project is that I was able to find matching bias tape, almost the exact same color as this fabric that I use. So I decided to omit the step where they showed you how to make your own bias tape because I came across the exact match. I thought it would be easier to just install the bias tape that I found, but it turns out that I was actually wrong. I did sew up the curved hem correctly. However, now that I'm getting into sewing, I'm starting to notice little imperfections within my clothing. But overall, I think I'm in a place within my sewing journey where structurally I'm aware of how to install and stitch up certain pieces. But now I'm in the phase of figuring out how to make it look more neat and less handmade. I would say the two sections that I feel like were a little more on the scrappy looking side, to me, in my opinion, is the collar as well as the hem. Now, if you get up close on this top, you'll see that you can see a little bit of the interfacing peeking beneath where the collar stand and this popover placket meets. I don't think it has anything to do with the instructions. I think it's just, it involves me maybe finding a good technique that works with stitching the collar stand and attaching it to the front part of this popover placket. And the same thing when it comes to attaching the bias tape. I just have to figure out what's the correct way to go ahead and apply the bias tape. Now, I love a good DIY, but I also don't want my projects to feel like DIY. Why in the heck did I just do that? But that's where I'm at within my sewing journey. If you're interested in checking out some of my other sewing projects or what I'm up to, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.